I recommend finding, if it's not here, find somebody that believes that concept so that you can figure out, how do I eat well, move well, think well, get the mechanics right, get the nutrition right. There's so much on the internet. Some's true, some's not true. You got to be real careful of kind of who you follow and what you look at. But what we've seen is when we can get people to understand that concept, great things will happen for their health.
Hey, Dr. Chris Gubbels here with the Health Heroes podcast, and today we have our special guest, Dr. Derek Fox. Thanks for being on the show.
Right, good to be here.
Yeah, this is exciting for me because when I moved to this area, your clinic was one of the first ones that I noticed because of the concept and model is similar to my integrated clinic in Square One Health. So I immediately looked around to see who was here. I saw your clinic and your outstanding branding, and it's been I've been wanting to get to know you. So welcome on the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Share our stories.
So you're not a rookie anymore, and you've been in practice for a while and been around the block. I'm curious, like, how did you initially get into healthcare and chiropractic, and then tell me a little bit about your journey as a healthcare practitioner.
Well, I think for me the journey was interesting if you think back to how it all happened. But growing up, as we talked about earlier off camera, I was an athlete, did different things growing up, played baseball, football, basketball. When I got to college, the goal was to play baseball and, of course, become a Major League Baseball player.
Wasn't that every kid's at some point?
I think that was every kid's. I didn't want to be a firefighter, but at the time, so I wanted to be a baseball player. So as I kind of went through that, I had some injuries as those things happen, you know, and so those injuries really set me back. During that time, I had a tib-fib fracture that was compound, so I was unable to run anymore, and I was a baseball player that played center field. So without speed, you're not a great player. So you
basically, the joints in your ankle.
I did, yeah. Joints in my ankle, and it was not playing sports. It was, you know, doing something I probably shouldn't have been doing. I was riding a four-wheeler for the first time, and when I wrecked, I tried to jump off, and I stuck my foot kind of in a gun rack. Oh. Sorry if I'm too graphic there, but that set me back. And during that time, during the rehab process, I kind of found that there was this thing called chiropractic. And it wasn't just based on the symptoms, it was based on how do you get the body healing from the inside out. And during that time, I had gained weight. I had become unhealthy, as you can be for
How old were you at this time?
I was 20 years old.
20, oh.
Yeah, 20 years old. So
were you playing college ball?
Yeah, so I bounced around, redshirted a couple places. I walked on at Auburn University. There, I got injured kind of during that process. It was during the process of walking on.
And the SEC is like where the premier baseball's played, yes?
Totally, yeah. But I never got to make it because I didn't finish that process. So I always had that question there. So when that happened, chiropractic was there for me. And so I started looking more into that. I knew that I loved the body. I finished up college, and then we went on to grad school. In grad school, I just got more and more involved in what the body did.
What were you doing in grad school for?
So I'm sorry, for chiropractic.
Oh, you went to chiropractic school?
Went to chiropractic school. So that kind of made that direction. I don't, you know, a lot of listeners out there are probably similar to me that in college, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. You know, at times I was looking at business. At times I was looking at, you know, law school. I was just searching for where do I want to go with life. And so when this happened, this kind of gave me that direction that I needed.
I was similar. I was exercise science, sports management emphasis, and I hurt my neck wrestling in college. And my wrestling coach actually directed me to go see a chiropractor. And that's where I started looking at that because towards the end of my college career, I was thinking, what do I do with this? So,
That's kind of how I felt. And, you know, and it just appealed to me because at that time I knew that I needed to get healthy again and find some new direction. It wasn't going to be sports. So working out and understanding nutrition, how the body works, all the important things that kind of build your body from the inside out really resonated.
Totally in line with like the chiropractic philosophy.
That's how I felt. And I was like, oh wow, I found it. So then I went to chiropractic school. I went to Texas Chiropractic down in Texas, in Houston.
I didn't know there was a school there. Is that so? It's not the Palmer.
Yeah. So Parker is in Dallas. Texas Chiropractic, I had family in Texas. That was one of the things that drove me to go there. When I got there, it's a little bit, the interesting about it is it wasn't straight chiropractic. It was a little bit more modality based. So we did learn some of that. We did some internships in practices and in hospital rotations. So we got to see what other people in the medical world did. So it was a great experience. Two things that came from that. One, you know, I learned to become a doctor of chiropractic. And secondly, probably equally as good. I met my wife, so
Okay, there
so
you
great
go.
things happened down there
Yeah.
in chiropractic school.
Nice
so.
upgrade.
Yeah, good upgrade. Yep, I got really lucky.
Cool. And then right out of school, did you start your own practice right away?
Yeah, so it was always kind of, I think I mentioned to you also, as I started to learn about the body, I began doing personal training. So
I did personal training when I was in chiropractic school.
yeah, me too. So that's what I did. So basically the side job I did to make extra money was I personal trained. I kind of got into fitness and bodybuilding, did those things for a little bit. So as I got out of school, we moved here because my wife was from Colorado.
Oh, I was going to ask why you came to Colorado.
Yeah, so she grew up in the Springs. So we moved here, and I basically moved down south at first because I wanted to, we kind of liked the south side of Denver, we thought. I took a job personal training. The gym there was being built and it never got open. This is kind of a funny story. So I was living off Lincoln Boulevard, and they go, well, we got a gym that's open up in North Colorado in Broomfield. And so I was waiting for my licensure to finish. So I was like, I'll just train there. So I was driving back and forth every day from Lincoln to Broomfield. And then when I got up here, by the time I got my licensure all out ready, I was like, hey, why don't I just open a clinic here? So fortunately, I did really well with personal training, and I got to meet some of the national people within 24 Fitness, and they let me open up a clinic inside the gym in Broomfield, and that's where I started.
That's interesting. I remember when I started practice, getting into the gyms like 24 Hour Fitness to do screenings was one of the things you were trying to do, because then you have direct access to potential patients.
Totally.
But you were right there.
That was my concept. The minute I got in there, I was like, well, I know and like and love helping people that are into fitness and want to take care of their bodies. I thought it was a natural connection or alignment. So I opened inside, and it did. It took off pretty quickly. Almost every person that I personal trained became chiropractic patients immediately. And I had the opportunity to walk on the floor and help people every day with their mechanics, with their movement patterns, understanding their nutrition.
You can just walk around and see who's like, of course everyone can benefit, but people definitely need some help.
That's totally what happened. So then that became the model for us initially there. So it was a low overhead, small clinic. We were primarily adjusting. And then I branched out and I became the official chiropractor over the next couple of years for not just 24 Hour Fitness, but a company called Fitness 19. We did do some things with Planet Fitness as well. And then a few years after that, a little further down the road, I became the official chiropractor for Lifetime Fitness.
Oh, nice.
We were their first chiropractor in the state.
The one that's right here on 144th?
Yep. We were their chiropractor for about 8 years or so, 6 to 8 years.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and that worked out really well. Again, it was the same concept. I was meeting people all the time. Probably our biggest connection, because I had a background in it, was with all their personal trainers. So we would work back and forth. If I needed patients that needed more rehab or physical training, I would refer to them, and they'd refer to me.
Nice.
That's kind of how we built the practice initially. A little bootstrap stuff as well. Obviously I did back in the day screenings at Walmart, at the
when
local
you're starting out,
fairs.
if you're not bootstrapping, you're not making it.
You're not making it. You're not making it. There was, as we talked about, we had yellow pages ads. There was no digital back then. So for the first 10 years or so, our practice was chiropractic focused, adjustments, and getting into the community. And that's really where we built our practice.
Excellent. But where you are now is quite a bit different kind of practice.
Yeah.
And so tell me about the journey and the transition from a chiropractic only focused practice to where you have this medically integrated clinic offering lots of different services, lots of different things to help people optimize their health. Kind of what triggered that, and what was that process like for you creating Fox Integrated Health?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nice to reflect and kind of think about it, because there's been so many moments in my life that have gotten us to where we are now as a clinic. I'd like to say there's one major thing, but it's been a few.
It's almost always just a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, right?
I heard Gabrielle Lyons speak, muscle-centric gal. She's a medical doctor, about 6 months ago. And it made so much sense to me, because she talked about there's these moments in our life that create new trajectories. And when you go back and look at it, you can see it map out to get you to where you want to go and how you got here. And so for me, that first 10, 12 years, that was what we did. And so how it changed was in my must have been late 30s, just before I turned 40, my mom was diagnosed with lupus, an autoimmune condition. At the time, I was heavily focused on adjusting. And I always loved nutrition, and I loved the thought of functional medicine, but we didn't do much of it at the time. First couple of years, she was medical based. She lived in Texas. I didn't do much to help. When I was 40, and this is kind of going back to the old days, one of our family friends, their kids got chickenpox. So we said, hey, let's do a chickenpox party.
Yep.
Help
old
get
school.
natural immunity, get it young in life. It'll be great for everybody. So each of our kids went
You
over
got to
to the
explain
house.
what a chickenpox party is, because some young people may not realize what this is.
Yeah, so our belief is that the body heals from the inside out, and
Yep.
it's good to get natural immunity that will last for a lifetime as opposed to using injections or vaccines in some cases. Everybody has to make their own decisions. But so for us, we took our kids and actually played with their kids.
That's what we did too. So when that chickenpox in the neighborhood, guess who you're going to hang out with? Billy
Yep.
has chickenpox, you're going
Yep.
to Billy's house.
Yep. And their family was a family of chiropractors as well.
Yep.
So they had 3 kids, we had 3 kids. And then we had a play group of about 8 chiropractors. So they all got together. Our kids all got it. First one had about, 50 bumps. The next one had about 10. The next one had about 20, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
They were all doing great. And then it was the end of the week, busy week, because I told you we were more high volume at that time. I came home at the end of the night and I had a huge pimple right here. And I was like, man, I haven't had a pimple in forever. The next morning I woke up with probably 500 bumps.
Wow.
By Saturday, I cannot, you can see
As
on
an
my
adult,
arms,
too.
see these little guys right there?
Yeah.
On my arms, not trying to show my arms, but those are all scars.
Yeah. Because in adults, it's generally a lot more severe if you get it as an adult, which is the idea is why you want to get kids.
Right,
kids,
is
right?
exactly. Because what happens as an adult, the viral activity lies dormant, I think, in your dorsal root ganglion. And what happens is if you've got all these other life exposures, they combine with that and make it much more severe. And so I ran 103, almost 104 temperature. I was bedridden for about 4 to 6 weeks. I lost 25 to 30 pounds. I almost died.
Really?
I
Wow.
almost died from adult chickenpox at the age of 40. And so you can imagine it changes your outlook.
Yeah.
My kids went from seeing strong dad that could do anything to a guy that couldn't get out of bed. So I look back on that, and that was one of those big moments. And I'm like, oh, wow, what the heck just happened? So lo and behold, I was lucky at that time. I had an associate doctor. She knows who she is, so thank you. She did a lot of great things and kept the practice running. When I came back, I was not the same person. So the high volume practice that I had, and I said, I get adjusted every week for my whole last 10 years. How did I get this? So it made me begin to search at different avenues and how to do this. Then what happened was over the next year or two, I started really diving into functional medicine, looking at toxic loads, assessing how your gut integrity affects your health. And over the next couple of years, I started to target that in my own body. When I was about 42, we went on a family vacation, then another moment, and I contracted a really bad stomach, bacteria when I was in Costa Rica.
Oh,
First 5 days, amazing. Last 2 days, here I go again.
yeah.
Right, so I was bedridden in the room for a couple days. I lost about 15 pounds in 2 to 3 days. Had to get on a plane and fly home. Another moment where I go, wow, I've still got more going on. So I started looking at functional medicine. I did some training with that. I followed and learned a lot from some mentors. That's where I did some more work with Dr. Pompa and some of the connections between the gut and toxins.
My
and
wife
mold.
sends me Dr. Pompa's stuff all the time. I go, you realize I know who he is.
Right, yeah. And so he
You know he's
really,
a chiropractor.
Right. And so then I really got into that. And as I started to look at this, I said, if I've exposed to this, if this could happen to me, it could happen to everybody, right? And it probably is.
Yeah.
And so I got to this point where I said, well, I've got to make a transition in this, and I want to learn more about how I can help people. Last big story, a couple of years later, now I'm moving forward with functional medicine. I'm helping people with similar conditions and similar exposures and backgrounds. We go to Disneyland. I'm on the ride with my daughter, and we're getting ready to go over this. I can't remember what it's called, though. One of the ones where it's a big roller coaster and then you drop down. And I look over at her and I'm like, let's go. And something to that nature. This is going to be fun. And it takes off. So I get a neck injury. Now I come back. I've got numbness and tingling in both my arms. My gut flare-up gets worse again. The body's connected. It's an amazing thing. It's all connected. And that's where I found regenerative medicine. So what happened is I ended up getting some regenerative medicine in the form of platelet-rich plasma. We did some stem cells. And I did some treatments to help with the instability in my neck. It was the only way to get back to practicing.
Yep.
And so when I put those 3 things together, it really landed me on, you know what? There is so much more to healing from the inside out, using your own blood, using your own eating, redeveloping the microbiome in your body to help the permeability in the gut get better. I always talk about how what I learned is when things come through your gut, and when you've got, Dr. Pompa talks about something called the three-legged stool. So we've got these three legs in a stool, and if they're not all together, that stool's going to tip over. And so
Absolutely.
one of the things I talk about is epigenetics, however you believe about that. You've got good genes and bad genes. That's one of the legs. In the middle, he talks about stressors, and that's physical, chemical, and emotional, which all of those things were. And the last one's the microbiome. So I took that concept and I said, I want to develop that within our practice. So we added services and I added things that it took me to get better and healthy. And I still believe and love chiropractic, and it's one part of the equation. It's a tool we use to help patients. But we added these other services because without them, I wouldn't be here.
Well, it's like if you're trying to build a house and all you have is a hammer and nails, maybe a saw, you can build something, but you need other tools to build something that's really, really nice.
You do.
So.
And the amazing part about it is what I found was, and we talked about this earlier, is that I went from trying to use a square on everything when they needed holes and ovals, and our patient results skyrocketed. The second factor, and I don't know if anybody out there has been to certain chiropractic clinics and things of that nature, is it created a lot of variety in what we do, which gave me passion and purpose. It brought back like kind of the joy in helping people. And so now what we do is we get all of these really challenging cases and we go much deeper. We pull all the layers back and we decide, hey, does this patient need energy therapies? Is there nutrition and microbiome work we need to do? Is there regenerative medicine we need to bring out? How does that play a role in our backgrounds of rehab and functional movement patterns? And we're seeing much better results, and we're getting patients better that have not gotten better with all the different things they've tried.
Yeah, I was at a seminar about a year and a half ago, and it was Tony Robbins was talking, and he said, don't fall in love with your product or service. Fall in love with helping your patient or your customer, because your product or service is is your avenue to help the people you're trying to help. But there could be other things and better things that come along to get a better outcome for your patient, or if you're in other business, your customer, or like whatever. Yeah,
I love that. That resonates with what we do and how I believe. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins too. Been in multiple of his seminars too.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that really drew me to doing this with you today is that I believe we're both lifelong learners, right? And when you continue learning, the world just opens up new ways of helping people. And I think one of my callings, and one of the things we do in the practice is I bring things to patients that they didn't know were possible. And we help to lead them to a better health and a better journey so they can enjoy all the moments that they're on the ground here and have a better life. So that's our goal.
It reminds me, I heard Russell Brunson once say, he talked about how do you develop passion. He's like, well, you try a lot of different things, and wherever you have attention, you just keep going down that rabbit hole, and you keep learning and you keep learning. But over time, through that process is where you develop your passion. So I think you're probably similar to me. You just keep learning, and that's where the energy to keep going comes from.
It does. I think he's absolutely
If you're not learning and evolving, you're dead.
Right. You're either growing or you're dying is what Tony says, right?
That's what grows your passion, which is what grows your business. Because if you're always learning and trying to advance and do better, like you naturally have to evolve and expand.
And I think we spoke about it earlier, is that in this business of helping people live maximized lives and healing, we have so many patients that have come to us over the years, and because of the way we do things differently, and they know that about us, that we're always evolving, they come back and back and back when new things come up. Now they go, oh wow, they're going to be thinking critically and differently than most will. So let's take a look at that, and that's what happens.
One of my friends, one of the guys that helped me design my Square One Health brand, his wife actually used to run REI's marketing.
Okay.
And when they were getting going, and she told me, she's like, when you think about it, she's like, how we look at it in our industry is, look at what other things your people that come in already need that are getting somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like at our store, we would say, oh, they buy this, or they buy this, or they buy this.
Yeah. Let's
have that here. So she's like, in yours, people come from chiropractic care. What other services or healthcare things that align with your philosophy that they already need that you could bring into that business to deliver in one location?
Totally. I called it a one-stop shop, right? That was my original business model way back when I applied to do even, gosh, now that I think about it, out of my business model when I tried to apply to get started with 24 Fitness. Lo and behold, I was mainly adjusting, but it was part of something that just grew over time.
Yep.
Because we learn, right? We're learning, hopefully.
Yeah.
You're either growing or dying. So, so the practice now really has evolved into something that actually fits that model.
Awesome.
You know.
Now, you probably have lots of them, but try to think of your favorite or one of your favorite patient stories or successes.
Man, you know what? Since we've made this transition over the last couple of years, we've had so many very cool things. I was thinking about this because I figured you might ask me, but it's really hard to break it down, but I know within our practice, we see a lot of peripheral neuropathy patients. We do see a lot of joint and spine patients. And we've got some of those just random nervous system based things. So a couple that come to mind. We've got a gal right now, and if anybody's out there listening, you know, it's kind of like you all have those patients that come in that their body language, their words aren't congruent with what they are showing you. And they come in and you're like, oh, this is going to be a tough case. You know, they've got to open up. So we've got a lady, it's probably okay to use the first name, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So a gal named Judy. She's in her, I think, late 70s. She comes in and completely, you know, body language hunkered over, husband's with her, shut down. Yep. Says she wants to be here to get better, but so anyways, we go through this initial discovery with her, which we do with a lot of patients nowadays, and it's really to figure out what brought them here, you know, what are they looking for, and is it somebody we can even help? And so a lot of times with these neuropathy patients, they come in, they've got a history of cancer in this case, they've got a history of being seen by multiple providers. The other downside is...
So does she have post-chemo induced
post-chemo, so she has
neuropathy?
chemo-induced neuropathy, went through chemo, radiation. She has a time span of multiple years, so it's been 2, 3, 4, 5 years since that. So now it becomes a little more challenging. Older, unhealthy, unable to move, a lot of edema, a lot of circulatory concerns, a lot of nutrition concerns. As you guys probably already know, a lot of cases of the peripheral neuropathy, there's almost always a relationship with the spinal column as well.
Yeah, it's like I think when I was doing that, it's probably the same training you did, you learned that about 50 to 60% of people with peripheral neuropathy have some spinal related complaint.
Yeah, I tell everybody about 60%. In her case, it was true. And she's on 1,200 milligrams of gabapentin a day. So, you know, what we find is most often gabapentin is the drug of choice, unfortunately, when people come in. It's an off-label use. It was actually created for seizures. And a lot of patients will come in taking that, and they start them at 3, they go to 6, they go to 9, they go to 12. So she was at 1,200 milligrams a day, and it really wasn't helping.
You know what's crazy about gabapentin? I mean, I have another professional I do some work with, and like he wasn't getting back to me. Some of the stuff wasn't making sense, and I sent him a letter saying, we're gonna discontinue our professional relationship because like, and he basically called me and we talked, and he said he had was it Legg-Calvé-Perthes disease, and he had to have a surgery, and so he had some problems with nerve damage afterwards, and he can't stand. But he said because the pain medications, the main one was gabapentin, and he goes, he couldn't think.
Loopy.
He couldn't think. He was slow. He's like, and when he got off for like 5 days, and he was like, I was like in this fog, I didn't know what was going on. It's crazy.
You know, I kind of liken that. Both, I find this with thyroid medications like Synthroid. I find it with gabapentin. A lot of patients might have a little reduction in some of their symptoms for about a month or two.
Then they get numb to it.
Then they get numb to it, and they just keep raising the dose, although the changes aren't there. So now they got that in their body.
Yep.
You know, so with her, you know, she couldn't walk. She came in on a walker. Husband had to help her get up. We do a lot of testing to look at how her neuropathy is going. And so with her, she had, I believe, about 75% damage and nerve loss.
Yeah, sensory loss.
Couldn't feel her feet, couldn't, you know, all those things, cold, all those things. So we started on a pretty, basically our protocol is let's address metabolic issues, let's address vascular issues, let's address some of the mechanical issues, and let's focus on some lifestyle interventions. And in addition to that, let's work at home as well so we can get better. When we first started, we do all the care in the office, so they had to come 5 days a week. Yep. So what we did is, you know, we've done some of the same training, so we offer some things at home they can do. So long story short with her, I think she's been under care not quite 12 months, but with her just recently this last week, she's off gabapentin. She no longer has a walker. She has lost about 20 pounds. She comes in consistently now. She's only on I think we've got her down to either once every 2 weeks or once a month as we're weaning her off. A lot of times with peripheral neuropathy, it can take up to 2 years to get all the change that you need to get.
It's a long, I mean, it took years to develop a lot of times.
Yeah, it's a course. So, and probably the highlight of it all is she just came in, I think this is either last week or the week before, and she told us she just went on a 2-week cruise, walked everywhere on the boat, got off on all the trips, did it all without a walker.
That's what's the rewarding part when you see it impacting their normal lives and their activities.
Now, what do you think changed in her demeanor now?
Totally different person.
Totally different person. Yeah. I mean, before she was the grandma nobody probably wanted. And now she comes in, she stops at the front to talk at the front. She enjoys our open area back there. She's made friends. She loves our team. She comes in and out with this smile, and it's a completely different atmosphere.
You get somebody that's in chronic pain, they can't work out, they can't be active, they can't do the things they love. It impacts them from a mental and emotional standpoint more than it does like a physical standpoint most of the time.
And we've had multiple cases like that. I had a guy that found us, from one of my blogs that I wrote regarding chemo-induced peripheral neuropathy, and he was more of a tech guy, and so he was looking everywhere and couldn't find anybody that resonated with him like we do. And so it's interesting because he lives in Boca Raton, Florida. So he found us. He was decisive about what he wanted to do.
See, people come from long distances because of the services you offer.
The services we offer, he said, I can't find anybody that does exactly the way you do it and talks the way, it educates the people the way you do. So he would fly up here from Boca Raton. And he did that, when we first started him, what he would do is he came up once a week for a month. Then he would come up once a month, and he did that for 6 months. And we did a very similar, more in-depth personalized program with him as well. He was chemo-induced. He was a runner all his life, couldn't run anymore. Couldn't just find any comfortability. He had gained 50-something pounds over the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years. He went through our protocol. Within 6 months, he had lost 35 pounds. He took his score from like 50-something down to below 20. He completely got off Gabapentin as well. I believe he was at about 900 a day, 900 milligrams. And he became this proponent, right? The nutrition, the lifestyle, the resources we gave him.
Sometimes it just takes one thing to get the ball rolling and people are ready to go.
Yeah. And it's funny because we could go back there and I'd show you, he's that guy too, that he wanted to have everything here when he was here. So what he would do is fly in and get treated 3 days in a row. So we've got his Vitamixer back there. What's the one? The little one.
Ninja.
The Ninja. Yeah. He's got his own Ninja here. He keeps his oils here. So when he flies in town, he's got everything he needs because he wants to be consistent. And I would say over everything, when you find patients that believe in what you do and they're consistent, the results can be life-changing. And Keith is just that way. That's what happened with him.
That's awesome.
We've got a lot of knee stories like that. I've got a gal right now that had drop foot when she came in. She had cancer again, was in the hospital. It was so bad. She went through all the radiation treatment. She then started to get blood clots. She was bedridden for 6 months.
Wow.
You can imagine what that's like, right? Completely changes your focus in life. She's been coming to see us for about 3 months. She now can walk without a walker. She's off all of her meds. Well, she's still taking Ilquis, but she's off the other ones. She's now got complete control of her foot. The spark, she's just a different person. And that was in a short case there.
So a lot of the people you're talking about, they're coming in and their conditions are pretty advanced and pretty severe. At ScolioCare, we're known for scoliosis. All we do is treat scoliosis. And a lot of times people come in when their spine has gotten really severe. And although most of the time we can still help them in some capacity, we really think, man, if we would have got this smaller at the beginning of this when it was a small problem, like the outcome could have even been greater or better than what we can do for you now. So I'm curious, with the patients that you're talking about that you're seeing, like, how do you see that similar? All the people come in and they're pretty advanced, you can help them. You think, man, if I could have got this when it was a small problem, before it was a big problem, how would the results or outcomes potentially be even greater?
100%. I almost don't go a day without thinking that with a new patient. And I've told hundreds of patients in some way or shape or form exactly what you've just said. I say, because again, in this line of healthcare, there's no guarantees, right? So I always tell them, I wish I would have met you earlier. And that's the importance of telling people about what we do, because If I'd have had this patient before they went through all those difficulties, the outcomes are better.
And I think people are taught in the traditional medical system, a lot of times they don't really address things until it's an emergency.
Yeah.
But if you know where something's going, why would you let it become an emergency?
Right. And Tony Robbins always says, when would now be a good time to get started? Right.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, he always says that. And I think about it in my own life. Like when you get up in the morning, you know you got to work out. When would now be a good time to work out? Right?
Yeah.
If you know you need to eat better, when would now be a good time to eat better?
100%.
If you know you could help somebody by learning something more, when would now be a good time to learn more?
Yeah. I had a guy, and we did some weight loss programs in our office, and he always used to say, told us to ask patients, are you worth it? Right? Yeah. And people don't think it's, really much about if you're going to go buy a brand new car, your TV breaks down, get a nice big, whatever the new screen or whatever is now.
Yeah.
But if you're investing in yourself, that can be seen as odd. But when your health goes, everything goes.
Yeah. I think there's still another quote from Tony Robbins. Yeah. I think he always says, I've never met a billionaire on his deathbed that would give his money all away for health.
Yeah. I remember I have a quote where he talks about one thing he's learned at the end is the 3,000 bottle of wine gives you the same hangover as a $330 bottle of wine. The $30,000 watch tells you the same time as the $100 watch. But the one thing you can't buy is your health and your time.
Yeah. Everybody wants better health.
Yeah.
And fortunately, if you deliver a good enough message and you've got the tools to do it, you can help a lot of people. And then, I will say, even with many of those folks that we've been able to help, it's one thing wouldn't do it. Chiropractic alone could not have gotten those results.
100%.
Soft wave alone couldn't have gotten the results. In many cases, we do some advanced testing to look at the gut using things like Cyrix Labs and Dutch panels and inflammatory cascades like a meta-oxy test we do in the clinic that looks at inflammation. All of that gives us baseline understanding for where people are at. Not everybody needs that. But on these challenging cases, it gives us direction so we can give them a map of where they're going.
Yeah, and you guys do so many unique things here. Before we're done, I want to do a quick tour so we can highlight some of the services that you guys offer and some of the conditions you treat. But I'm curious, if you could give an average patient or someone that's watching this just one piece of advice when it comes to their health, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I would say there's a simple thought process that if you're not with a clinician, the simple thing is move well, eat well, think well. Which one of our mentors and colleagues used to talk about. And so in our clinic, we believe that same thing. So if I could give them one piece of advice, it's in our clinic, it's understanding that energies, movement patterns, healing is kind of like your bank account, right? So if you're always writing checks and you're always scanning the card and you're always spending money.
Or always taking withdrawals.
Yeah, without ever putting anything in, you're going to get imbalanced. And when you get imbalanced, as you spoke about before, scoliosis doesn't start today. Health is just an indication of what you've done over the last months, years, and decades of your life. So I always say, if that bank account, if you're spending more than you're putting in from a standpoint of health, it's not if you're going to have problems, it's when you're going to have problems.
You got to do deposits every day.
So you got to do deposits every day. So I recommend finding, if it's not here, find somebody that believes that concept so that you can figure out, how do I eat well, move well, think well, get the mechanics right, get the nutrition right. There's so much on the internet. Some's true, some's not true. You got to be real careful of kind of who you follow and what you look at. But what we've seen is when we can get people to understand that concept, great things will happen for their health.
And to add on to that, to eat well, move well, think well, but do it all at the same time. And for a period of time.
Right.
The longer you're sick, the sicker you get.
Absolutely.
The longer you're healthier, the healthier you get.
Yeah. It's a concept that I think, unfortunately, the media in our country has taught people everything about the quick fix, right? There is no quick fix. I'm not a big fan of no pain, no gain anymore, because I think that can cause some problems. But I do think that you've got to put in the time, the effort, and the consistency, no matter what you're doing in life, to pay the dividends.
Most problems develop over years.
Right.
I always say it takes years of dedication and hard work to develop a chronic illness. You don't become overweight by eating one bad meal or skipping one workout. So health takes time, just like it takes time to become unhealthy.
But I would say that to the listeners, though, the good thing about what we do now is you still see results and changes pretty quickly.
Yep.
When you're doing it the right way, when you're connecting all the modalities and the thought process.
Yeah,
we use.
there's rarely just one thing.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at all of the pieces that need to be addressed.
And if you address all those, you'll get great results.
100%.
So, and lastly, not to ever, I think we're in an environment where if you get in a car accident, you've got a major surgery that you need to do, America's the best place to be in the world.
100% for crisis care.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you want to, so what we do in America is we take all these chronic conditions, which are 85% of the problems, and we slam them into an acute model.
Yep.
So the cool thing about what we do is we actually focus on all those chronic conditions, figuring out the root cause, and building you back up from the inside out to address it, and not just to mask the symptom. So if patients are looking for that, and this is the kind of environment of that's what they want. This is where they can get it.
So if someone's watching, like, how do they find you guys as clinic? How do they find you?
Yeah.
How do they get a hold of you?
We're blessed to be right in a good environment here in Broomfield, Colorado. Been here for almost 25 years, as we talked about. You can follow us. Really, a few years ago, we started trying to educate people on some simple things you can do. And I know you have a background in the fitness and rehab and functional movements. So you can follow us on our Instagram, Fox Integrative Healthcare. We've got a pretty large following there, and we do put easy, simple stretches that you can use on a daily to kind of focus on just getting your body to move better. So you can follow us there. Obviously, our website's foxintegrativehealthcare.com. Our number here is 303-469-7066. You can always call, get in for a consult. We do those virtual and in clinic, primarily in clinic these days. And those are the ways you can kind of follow. So obviously we've got a Facebook, we've got some different medium out there. But if you're suffering from something that multiple doctors haven't been able to explain, and you're open to the fact that healing comes from the inside out.
Or you're going here for this, there for that, and you're like, I like to have one place to go to get my natural healthcare services. Check out Fox Integrated Health.
Yeah, we'd love to help. We actually are passionate and we want to help more people. So give us a call.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet.